lovely humans, and welcome to arguably one of the weirdest videos I've ever made. So, I don't even know what possessed me to make this video, but I'm learning that you guys are my people. I mean, I've always known this, but I'm feeling like as time goes on, I can just let out more of my weird, and you guys are you're just gonna get it. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. Now, just, want to say that this actually started with, let's see if it's gonna focus, 10 things I don't throw away anymore. And then I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going. To preface all this, I should probably say I didn't start saving all of this stuff because, like I know sustainability is something that gets people really excited. I am not excited about sustainability. I'm excited about cheapness. And I'm excited about good flavors and not throwing away things that like have value to them. And I don't know if it's because I'm a child of the Great Depression. Wait. Child of the Great. Yes. So I don't know about you, but like, I think I had 2 grandparents that were hoarders. Maybe one was only officially a hoarder. The other one loved to find use for things. And that's what's been like impressed upon my brain. Not to mention when the twins, who are now 14, were little, we had like no money. So I was always looking for ways to save stuff or make something out of what could be considered kitchen scraps. And I'm not saying it's developed into a problem, but I'm not saying that my freezers aren't full. That's too many negatives. I have a lot of random stuff in our freezers that my family has learned to not touch. Poor dears. So if you are at all like me and you love repurposing stuff and that's like inspiring to you, or if you have no money and you're trying to figure out how to like not get rid of food that may have like started a turn for the worse, but still technically is edible, which admittedly is a horrible premise for whatever. It'll make sense in a minute. Or if you're trying to be sustainable and send less food waste to the trash system, all of this is for you. It is probably important to note that we do have animals that we can send a lot of our food scraps to. We have chickens that will eat like the main bulk of our kitchen scraps go to the chickens. They eat so many scraps. And then whatever they don't eat, oftentimes will go to the goats. And then if there's ever any meat or meat byproducts that we're comfortable feeding the dogs, we've got them as well. We've got cats. We've got options. We basically just don't give anything to the horses. So even if I don't make something out of them for my kitchen, we usually end up sending them to the animals, which is great. It's free food. Sort of. We already paid for it, but you know what I'm saying. Number 1, stale bread. You can use stale bread for a whole myriad of recipes. Breadcrumbs, strata, which is like an egg bake kind of thing. And if you have stale bread, in fact, the more stale, the better. You might even want to go as far as to dry it out more and then let it sit overnight, because then you just end up getting this crusty, delicious like egg casserole type thing. It'll change your life. And then I also went so far as to take the bread bowls, homemade sourdough bread bowls from French onion soup night, saved the leftover remains of the bowls, dried them out, chopped them up, which admittedly I probably should have chopped them up and then dried them out, and used them for my Thanksgiving stuffing. You guys. Not saying it was the best stuffing I've ever made. It needs some tweaking. This was the first time I did this, but you could bet your bottom dollar I'm never using box stuffing ever again. And you can use this with any kind of bread. Bread you get from the store, bread you make yourself. Like, I probably wouldn't do it with leftover McDonald's burger buns, but there's a lot of options for this. In fact, if you want to see me making anything off this list, just let me know in the comments below, because this is, like, again, I feel like this is the silliest video I've ever made, but I'm really passionate about it. So you just let me know what you want to see, okay? Because I will have no problem showing you, okay? Item number 2, chicken bones. If you have known me for longer than 4.5 seconds, you know that I'm obsessed with making scrap stock. It's where I save all of the root vegetable scraps and all of the chicken bones from any meal that is not sweet. So like nothing with like a barbecue sauce on it, but like any meal beyond that, I will save the chicken bones. My children know, last night we had a roasted chicken for dinner. And they knew to not throw away the bones because mom will be using those for stock. My husband knows you don't touch whatever is left of that chicken carcass, mommy saves it. Which is rad because then it ends up turning into something nutritious and delicious for our family. And I don't have to go out and buy chicken stock or chicken broth. I actually don't really know technically what the difference is between the two. I think broth is more like flavorless and stock is more hearty. But that I just pulled out of my rear, so like maybe Google it. That, and if for any reason it has slipped past my sticky fingers, raw chicken bones, uncooked, can actually safely be fed to dogs. I was this many years old when I found that out. Dogs can eat chicken bones. Totally fine. So if for some reason I'm not using a neck bone and or the giblets from the inside of a frozen chicken that we've purchased, I will give those to the dogs. I'm not going to throw that in the trash. Absolutely not. That is like a treat for free, but not free because we already paid for it. I'm just going to get my money's worth, okay? Number 3, apple cores and apple peels. To the point where my poor children will finish an apple and go to like throw it in the trash can. I'm like, no. And then they're like, oh, yeah. And go to throw it in the scrap bucket. And I'm like, no. Okay, did you know that you can make apple cider vinegar at home? Except for it's technically not apple cider vinegar. I think it's called apple scrap vinegar. I have now successfully made it once, but we haven't gone through all of the apple cider vinegar we already had purchased. Does that stop me from having 2 freezer bags full of apple peels and apple cores? No, it does not. But I figure if I slowly accumulate them, by the time we need, more apple cider or apple scrap vinegar, we'll be good to go. In fact, hold on. Can I just brag for a second? I gotta go get something to show you. Hold on. This is my apple scrap vinegar. This is about a half gallon's worth. You can see the mother is mothering down here like intensely. But one thing that I thought was really cool that I've never seen, and I looked it up, it's totally safe. I've never seen this on apple cider vinegar. I've only seen it on kombucha. And that is, there is a SCOBY on top. Isn't that rad? Now there's several more that I've actually floated down to the bottom, but I accidentally kind of disturbed it when I was moving it. But it will form, I don't think it's technically called a SCOBY with apple cider vinegar, but it'll form up at the top. I don't think you can see into the rest of it. How radical is that? So by saving the organic apples, and then I have one of those peelers that will rotate through them that we'll make apple pies with. So I'll save the peels from that because they're not going to go to anything except for maybe the animals. So why not make something super potent, great, healthy for the family? And it's literally growing good stuff for your body inside of that jar right now. Radical. This is so cool. Okay, we're only on item number 3. Item number 4, root vegetables. Carrots, that means the ends, that means the peelings. Onions, that means the onion skin or the ends of the onions. Celery, the ends of it that you chop off that aren't very attractive. The center of it where the pieces are too pale or too small to use for anything else. I will toss that into a freezer bag next to the chicken bones and use those for stock. Also parsley and or any sort of herbs in general. I don't normally ever buy herbs that wouldn't work well in a stock just to kind of work with anyways. So I've done parsley, I've done rosemary. I haven't done cilantro. That would be weird. Don't do that. But I've also done sage in my stock as well. So if you bought fresh herbs from the grocery store and they're starting to turn or starting to look a little funky or starting to get a little dried out, don't throw them away. Put them in with your scraps to use in your scrap stock. Because what I find just absolutely wild, and I think God is so cool for this, all of those herbs have nutritional qualities to them. So save them, put them in the freezer, and use them in your stocks. Item number 5, pasta water. Stick with me. Did you know that pasta water can be a thickening agent? I've gone as far to save pasta water in ice cube trays to add them to soups and stocks later. It's not as strong as like cornstarch would be, but in my opinion, it changes the mouthfeel of things just slightly. So I have saved pasta water and then cooked a soup in it the next day. It just adds a little flavor, a little something. And in addition to that, pasta water actually has some nutritional value to it. Get this. Some of the B vitamins, if they're added to pasta or as a part of the pasta, will actually leach out during the cooking process, including vitamin B2, aka riboflavin. It also has minerals and vitamins. It can be used for pesto. It can be used as a part of your bread making process in lieu of water. So many fascinating things. Next on my list, eggshells. I will actually dehydrate these and grind them, and they make the perfect calcium supplement. Have I thought about making my own tooth powder? Yes, but we haven't run out yet, so I can't use that as an excuse to make my own tooth powder because a lot of holistic toothpaste and or tooth powders on the market will use eggshells as their base because the calcium, from what I understand, can actually help to build back up your teeth. I don't know if it's the enamel or what. Give it a goog. Look into it. I find it absolutely fascinating. They can also be crushed up and fed back to the chickens. There are some arguments about how oyster shells are better because it's more of a slow release calcium than the actual eggshells are. You do need to crush them before feeding them to chickens so they don't resemble an actual egg, because once you have a hen that will like peck at eggs, she kind of won't be stopped until she's cold. So make sure it doesn't fully resemble an egg if you decide to feed it back to the chickens. The dogs will eat them as well. I've heard an occasional feedback from people being like, don't do that. I think it's fine. If you don't want to, you don't have to do it with your own dog. And then also when it's ground up, if I do need a calcium supplement in my garden, I have that ready to go as well. I keep a coffee grinder on hand specifically for eggshells. That's literally its only purpose. Item number 7, garlic skins. I typically am a minced garlic girly. I don't like cutting garlic. I don't like getting sticky fingers. But when I do get fresh garlic and mince it, the flavor is unparalleled. I know I should do it more often, and I know it's much more healthy. I just don't like sticky fingers. To the point where I don't like eating ice cream out of a carton. And my knuckles bump against like the cardboard and then get sticky. Blech. But garlic skins can also be used in chicken stocks, right? Or any sort of vegetable or meat-based stock that you were looking to do. I did this with my most recent round. I saved a bunch of garlic skins and dried them out in our dehydrator, which you could also do in your oven, and added them to the stock instead of or in lieu of adding fresh garlic or jarred minced garlic. So it's still imparted the flavor without wasting any of the garlic that I would want to use for something else. And that's always been my bone to pick with so many, get it, bone to pick, with so many stock recipes is they use fresh ingredients that I would rather use for something else. Like, why would I waste fresh carrots when I could just save up some carrot ends and some carrot peels and the parts of the celery you're not going to use anyways, and then make a stock out of it? And once you get in the habit or the cycle of doing that often enough, you really don't end up running out of stock kind of at all. In fact, I don't remember the last time we ran out of stock. You can also use the garlic skins to flavor stews. This one I haven't quite done yet. I think that would be texture-wise a little bit funky. Or if you dehydrate it far enough, then you can grind it down and use it as a replacement for garlic powder. That would probably be a better way of flavoring stocks and stews, now that I'm like reading my notes more accurately. Item number 8, carrot pulp. My husband's probably one of his favorite beverages in the entire world is carrot juice. The entire world. And my squirrel brain, and I don't mean all over the place squirrel brain, I mean my storing nuts for the winter squirrel brain was like, that seems like a lot of nutrition to just be throwing away. There's got to be something we can do with this pulp that's left over. And there is. You can use it for like smoothies and stuff, but I don't care for the texture at all. What I do care for, the texture that I absolutely love, is carrot cake. You don't have to use fresh carrots for carrot cake. You can use the pulp left over from your carrot juice. You can also use the shavings if you do peel your carrots and you want to keep them separate and not use it with your stalks in your broth. If you are a carrot cake lover like my husband is, I actually really like carrot cake as well. In fact, maybe I should make some today. Today, as I'm filming this, it's actually Valentine's Day. So that could be a nice gesture. I may not. Who knows? But I could, because I saved the pulp. Just in case. Item number 9 is coffee grounds. Now, I will admit that I throw a ton of these away. However, I no longer purchase face scrubs. I simply use the coffee grounds that I have at home with a raw honey face wash, and this is probably the crunchiest thing I've ever said on the internet. Yeah, you heard me. I have a raw honey face wash that I purchase because it's like a mix of honey and olive oil and a couple other things that I just don't want to DIY just yet. But I could, I just don't want to. And then when my fingers have the honey wash on them, I will literally just tap it into a jar of coffee grounds that I keep in my shower. And nobody panic, that I cycle through regularly so it's not just sitting there getting moldy, all right? It's up high enough, it's dry, it's on a shelf, it's good, it's whatever, it's Gucci, my man. Then I will use that to exfoliate my face. So I no longer use any sort of commercial exfoliants on my body or on my face. I use just coffee grounds. That's it. And combined with the raw honey and the olive oil, it actually is so hydrating to your skin. And still, I mean, yes, coffee grounds are naturally going to be a little bit more abrasive, so you want to be a little bit careful how you use them on your face. As long as you're gentle and we're not using the excessive amount, it is just such a luxurious feeling, and I love using something that would go in the trash for this purpose. Another great use for that would be in your garden. I don't know my soil levels though, so I'm not just going to be adding it out there willy-nilly. I don't want to make my soil too acidic. Or people will put it in their compost, but we have yet to actually start our compost. Which, now saying it out loud, we really got to get that going. But hey, if you have clean coffee, like organic coffee, ideally the one that's mold-free, but those are a little bit more spongy, maybe stop buying all those expensive scrubs and just kind of use what you got. I know some esthetician in the comments is going to be like, no, don't do that. If you would like to tell us why we should not do that, that sounds great. Until then, I will feel like the most accomplished of squirrels not buying more facial scrub and body scrubs. Okay, next, berries. Okay, so when we start to lose berries, when they start to get like a little wrinkly, a little sad, not moldy, I will freeze them immediately. Nothing wrong with them. They're totally fine. They are just over ripened, right? Which means they're kind of going to be extra sweet, but their texture is going to be meh. Okay? So we will freeze them for smoothies. The second I start to see them turn, I'm like, yep, yoink, those are mine. I also do these with grapes too, because they end up being not a hugely flavorful addition to smoothies, but they're great in lieu of ice cubes. So a lot of fruits I will freeze, except for not apples and not pears, those kind of things. The texture gets a little funky. Those I wouldn't recommend unless you're making apple scrap vinegar. And then you save your apples because the texture doesn't matter. It's so gorgeous. Oh yeah, you can kind of see that. Okay, that doesn't matter. We already showed that off, Jamie. Keep moving on. There's also something called a shrub, which I have yet to make, but it's almost like it's a drink flavoring agent. I'm not selling this well. But a shrub is a type of beverage that people totally love. You can add alcohol to it or not, but you let it ferment on the counter for a few days and you get this like bubbly, delicious little drink. Also, if I was more well-versed in jellies or jams, I would be using those for that as well, but I am not. So in the meantime, we just freeze it for smoothies and I hope to make shrubs soon enough. Wilted herbs. Kind of touched on these earlier, but if they start to look sad, I do not throw them away. Absolutely not. I will give it a quick goog to see if they will freeze well without any sort of help. I know basil specifically, if you blend it up in a food processor or a blender and add some olive oil to it and freeze it in ice cubes, it's so good. Fresh basil that you then freeze and use in recipes is still so aromatic and so vibrant in flavor. It is so good. So if there's any reason that I have like an excess of basil or we haven't gotten to it in time, I will do that hands down every single time. I can also do this with stuff like parsley. I can do this with cilantro. Sometimes I'll just freeze them as is and just use them as a flavoring agent later because the texture is altered in the freezer. But I am not getting rid of it just because it starts to look sad. No, ma'am, we're holding on to it because that still has flavor and it still has nutritional value. Bananas! I don't like bananas. I hate bananas. And my kids go through phases where they eat all the bananas or they eat none of them. My husband's convinced that it's because like we didn't cut the sticker off on the outside. If the sticker is still on the outside, they won't touch them and they'll all just go black. All of them. So here I am, like the non-banana eater, watching all of my family like eat them and then not eat them and then eat them and not eat them. So like everyone does, we think we're going to make banana bread, but we don't. We don't. My husband actually makes a mean banana bread when he does it like once every other year. It's very good. So instead, I actually save them and we'll put them into smoothies. It adds a real nice creaminess. And if I don't taste banana, I'm good. Like it's fantastic. And it's got tons of nutrients in it. Number 13 is whey. And this is very much like a homesteader thing. Because everyone's like, you mean the protein powder? No, I mean the leftover liquid after making cheese. Huh? I would look at it and be like, I don't want to throw this away. There's got to be something I could do with this. Yes, I could figure out dehydrating it and turning it into whey powder and then adding it to smoothies for protein. But like the process of dehydrating that much liquid seems really daunting, although I would like to try it this year. Once the goats are back in milk, which should be in the next month and a half or 2 months, I'm so excited. And then we can start making cheese again. Then I'll see if I can do something with whey. But I also will save it in ice cubes and add it as a flavoring agent. It almost has like a tanginess to it. Think like a very mild liquid sour cream type flavor, right? There is a tanginess that's left over in this way. So I will use it in soups. I will add a cube or two into smoothies just for a little extra hit of protein, but not so much that it affects the flavor. Although I guess if it has like a sour cream yogurty tang to it, it really complements the smoothie nicely. And my favorite purpose for whey in general is actually to marinate meat in it. This is, okay, I love learning this stuff, so I hope you guys are with me on this and enjoying this video because I found this fascinating. The lactic acid in the whey helps to break down the muscle structure of the meat to make it more tender. That's why you'll see a lot of people marinating whole chickens in milk or items of that nature. And I'm like, I don't want to waste the milk, but I've already gotten something out of the whey. So why not use that to marinate a couple of chickens if that's what we are having, especially if they're pasture raised. Pasture-raised animals tend to have a lot more dense meat on them because they're moving around and using their muscles. The reason a lot of chicken at the grocery store is nice and tender, it's because they don't move much, because they can't. And I'm not going to get into animal husbandry in this video, but I'm quite passionate about rotational, pasture-raised, grazing, sustainable, regenerative agriculture. Did I say enough of the trigger words? Yeah, so we like pasture-raised birds because we feel like it's better for the animals. So to be able to have a process like marinating them in whey to make them more palatable and more toothsome is something that we truly enjoy. Number 14, egg whites. I am not a dessert person. I'm not a dessert baker. I don't do a lot of anything that would require egg whites. So I know there's a whole slew of things like dessert-wise that you could do with those. That's not me. No. So I have actually used them as a binding agent for stuff like granola. And there's another thing I really want to try. I want to use it to flavor nuts. Like I love spicy cashews so much. So what you do is you take the cashews or the nuts that you want to flavor or roast and you toss them in egg whites and then put the flavoring on the outside. And that's where you get like that gorgeous like kind of glaze effect on the outside. So good. We're adding such nutritious protein to it, even though obviously the nut itself already has some protein. And then the flavor sticks. It just, what? Like, if you didn't know that, you can make your own roasted flavored nut snack because I just ordered some cashews, so I'm really excited to try this. I want jalapeno black pepper cashews, maybe with like a hint of lime. My mouth is watering just thinking about this. Number 15, sour milk. We very rarely have our milk sour here, which by the way, we drink raw milk. If you'd like to raise your pitchforks in the comments, please feel free to. That's totally fine. There are animals, we're aware of their health, we're aware of what goes into their bodies, and we also think it's delicious. We don't see a need to pasteurize our own milk. In fact, we could have a whole conversation about the pasteurization process in general. But that's not happening right now. So raw milk doesn't necessarily spoil. It can, sure. But if it starts to sour, that just means the active enzymes, or what have you, in the milk have continued progressing to the point of, starting some curdling processes. So instead of throwing that out, of course, the animals are always a last-ditch effort for this. I can always take the milk out to the chickens. I can always give it to the dogs. All these animals love milking season a whole lot. The cats love goat's milk. I know we've got those as like a final resource. It's not going in the trash. However, I'd like to catch it before it goes any further. So along with not sour milk, I make things like goat cheese, chèvre, and yogurt. In fact, I almost prefer when the milk is sour just a little bit for the yogurt because the flavor changes a little bit. Yogurt is much more difficult to make with a pasteurized milk, but I know it's possible. I don't know if you can actually make chèvre with pasteurized goat's milk. But just because it smells a little bit sour, in fact, I've literally stopped my family and been like, no. That just means the living qualities of that milk have progressed into a fermentation state and there's something we can do with this. Do not throw it away, okay? My poor family is traumatized. They are scared to go near the sink or the trash can with anything in their hands because I might be like, we could use that. Oh my goodness, this video ended up being way too long for one. I'm gonna go ahead and split it into two because I have been recording for, on my end, 47 minutes. So we're gonna have to do this in two separate videos. You guys, thank you so much for watching. If there is something that you don't throw away that I should be adding to my list, please add that below because I need more things to put in my freezer. So that's all we have for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, jump on down there, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel for more really weird things. And until next week, bye, guys.